Welcome along to another episode of the Make Life Work podcast, Home Edition, with me, Si Jobling. This series, I'm talking to people from around the tech scene about how they're coping through the COVID-19 lockdown and trying to find a balance with any work, side projects, or any personal demands. This week, I've invited along Mike Street, CTO at Brighton digital agency Liquid Light. I've known Mike for a few months now through our Slack community on the side, where we talk quite a lot about our side projects and day-to-day working challenges. Mike has got some fascinating insights and ideas from working in leadership of a modern digital agency, especially through the past few years from a personal perspective, and he's still finding time for side projects and fitness, ticking all the boxes for this podcast. Let's get into it. How you doing, Mike?
Yeah, all right. It's odd times at the moment, but I'm getting by, I think. What about yourself?
Getting by. I think that's the phrase of the day, right? Everyone's just getting by, coping.
Yeah.
It's the good old Britishisms as well. It's not bad.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Not too bad. Yeah.
Not too bad is a good one. So, as I alluded to in the intro, you're in a interesting environment with your work setup. Could you tell us a bit about what you do, who it's for, and how it all works for you at the moment?
Yeah, so I am now the CTO and lead developer for a web agency in Brighton called Liquid Light. We mainly focus on like NGO clients, and we've got sort of a few insurance clients, but we're sort of very focused on performance, making big websites fast, making them look good, trying to make the sort of boring information a bit more sort of exciting to get accessed, I suppose. And we were very much an office-based company up until the lockdown, and we had to pivot very quickly to working from home and sort of allowing everyone to work from home. So that was a big challenge because all of our sort of infrastructure is set up to be office-based and sort of focused around there. So trying to make it available from everyone's home and dealing with those challenges was exciting, I suppose. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the sort of the mix-up. I had to do a late-night drive-by delivery of people's computers from the office to their homes on the night that we decided to sort of close down. So that was fortunately I had some sort of a help from a colleague who was able to run in with some iMacs to various houses.
Right. So what's the scale of the business at the moment then?
In terms of how many employees we have?
Yeah, how many people do you work with? Yeah,
we've got 11 employees. So we've got a development team of 4 or 5, a couple of account managers and some in-house designers as well.
Right. Okay. So it's proper startup size, really, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. It's been that size it's been running for 15 years or so, and it's been around that size pretty much the whole time. It's it's nice. It's big enough to be able to have specific resources for tasks, but it's not too big that you lose the kind of, I hate to say it, but family mentality of the company.
Grassroots feeling.
Yes,
right?
Exactly. Yeah.
I hear that phrase a lot with Brighton agencies as well. There's a few of us that we know, right?
I don't know what it means.
You said like 15 years. That's a long time as an agency. Yeah. To be doing well. And do you say most of the clients are in insurance and in that sort of space? Is that something you guys have honed in on as a specialism? Was it just the way it's kind of fell?
Yeah, it's. I mean, our main customer focus is NGOs. The insurance kind of, I think, helps us along the way because NGOs don't necessarily have the deepest pockets. So it's certainly something that we prefer and we kind of aim to get to, as it were. And I mean, as with anything, the word of mouth is sort of the most powerful tool. So it's sort of once you start moving in particular circles, you kind of get louder within those circles because everyone's sort of talking about you and referring you and stuff. So it's certainly something that an avenue that we've been wanting to go down for a while.
Right. Okay. So I guess because it's like 15 years, what's that? It's going back to 2005 time, before the wave of disruptors and even before that last recession, actually. So how have you guys kind of coped through those weird times? Because we're going to another one, right? So,
Yeah, it's probably, I've been there for 5.5 years, so I don't know too much about the history, but I know it started off with making CD-ROMs and stuff is one of the founders likes to often remind us. So I think it's been going on longer than 15 years, but they've certainly managed to sort of just find the core base of clients that seem to enjoy our services and sort of, have stuck by us for a long time as well.
Yeah, because I worked, I don't know if you know, I worked in insurance probably, I think it was about 2008 for about 4 or 5 years.
Right.
That was in-house. So I was like one of the tech leads in the space. I know how dry that industry can be. I know it's not the most exciting, but it's very important. There's a lot of process and governance around it. So how have you found that working in like a kind of fluid, agile, cool way? Do you find interesting ways to make that work?
Yeah, I mean, I used to work for an agency that was very hip and trendy and would sort of do websites for all of the kind of DJs and
Nice.
and up and coming festivals and stuff. But I just didn't like. I would do the work, but I didn't really feel passionate about it because the sort of MD would come in and be like, "Oh, we've got this guy's website." I'd be like, "I don't know who that is," and he'd be really excited about it. But now we're sort of there's a local college called Plumpton College that I've sort of got a lot of respect for. And when we won that project at Liquid Light, I was actually really excited about it and really like pleased that I got to work on it. So I seem to be a bit more passionate for some reason about boring websites, I think. Sorry, boring in air quotes. Because I think there's that extra challenge there of making it, it's often a lot of text. And so you've got to really focus on your spacing and your line height and stuff like that to make it nice without sort of being too dry and boring.
Yeah, it's a fine one to find though, isn't it? Because I think, like you say, when you're just churning out portfolio blogs, whatever it is for musicians, it kind of fits the same mold every time. But when you get like a nice big project like a college or an actual application, now the brain's starting to work. We've got to be more creative and inspirational around these things.
Yeah, and you get to work a lot on performance as well, because the last thing people want to be doing is sit around waiting for a big image to load of whatever it is that when they actually just want to read the text. So that's something.
It brings up a good question actually. So you as a CTO in your role, and I guess like a lead developer, what sort of level of detail do you go into on your day-to-day basis? What sort of stuff would be in your typical day-to-day as well?
So I now tend to just get involved. Things get escalated to me. So there's sort of quite a few days where I'm just either sort of fixing bugs that have sort of been sent up the chain, or on the flip side, sometimes I take a lot of the low level work to mean that the other developers can get on with sort of the more chunky work, as it were. So yeah, there's sort of some weeks where I get to the end of the week where I just feel like I've been jumping between clients and stuff and not really doing much. But other times I really get to like focus on improving something in our stack, or rolling something out across all our clients and just watch them sort of speed up just that little bit, or improve a little bit, or upgrade to the latest version of the CMS and stuff like that. So it's quite varied week to week rather than day to day, I think.
What do you prefer? Do you prefer the sort of logistical admin side of it, or do you prefer getting hands on with the tech? Because I know it's a bit of a weird mix sometimes.
Yeah, I actually quite like the mix.
Okay.
I mean, sort of if sort of gun to my head, if I had to choose something, it would be code every time. But I do enjoy having the kind of being able to sort of step back and go, actually, we need to focus on this now, or let's sort of pursue this avenue for a bit and see how it can improve things for our clients, whether it's speed or user experience or stuff like that.
Yeah.
There's a big like accessibility drive at the moment,
right.
That we're sort of just fine tweaking. We're pretty good with our accessibility anyway, but as with anything, there's always improvement. So it's quite rewarding to see kind of various scores and checks kind of increase, and sort of us climb to the top, as it were.
Yeah, I mean, we could go into this depth a lot more, couldn't we? But I know from my experience, like when I was trying to lead a team previously, you've got all these sort of areas to cover: performance, accessibility, other non-functional requirements, and monitoring. It's half your day job, unfortunately, when you're in that sort of role, right? Yeah. So it's just one of them. What excites you the most in that sort of space from a tech perspective? Then, put you on the spot a little bit here.
Yeah, I think I seem to just sound like a broken record, but right now it is for me about performance, making websites fast and making them sort of really responsive and stuff like that. And you see a lot of. I certainly have found that more and more I'm waiting for websites to load. I'm waiting for things to come in. There's loading bars everywhere you go on the web. And it's just sort of, for me, I want to be able to click a link and, the website's there, the page is there, I can read stuff, I want to be able to select text, which seems to be a thing that people stop you from doing, or like,
what is that all about? Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. So it's just like I'm a bit of a dinosaur when it comes to the web technologies that I use, but it's one of those things that if it ain't broke, then and it makes good, fast websites, then I'm all for it.
Nice. I thought we've got our community that we speak to on the side, which we'll give links to later. And I know you did like the Google Lighthouse thing last week, was it? And yeah, so is that something that you kind of monitor regularly, or is it something you kind of looking at momentarily? How do you get that to work? What the range of clients as well? Because it's not just one thing, is it?
Yeah, so we've got a few sort of internal tools that kind of monitor Lighthouse and page speed and uptime and stuff like that. So it's sort of actually part of our regular checks. And at the moment, I'm doing a big push because last week, Lighthouse version 6 came out, which had sort of some big changes, which meant that a lot of our sort of client scores dropped. One reason, I mean, it is, if you sort of look on the web, as with anything, there's people for and against things like Lighthouse. And you can, I think someone published an article the other day that you can make the world's worst website and it can still score top marks on Lighthouse. And it is sort of to be taken with a pinch of salt, but it is ultimately something that is accessible to clients. We've had, clients in the past come to us and be like, why doesn't my website score high on Lighthouse and stuff? So, and it's, at the end of the day, it's a number that we can show to clients as well and prospective clients and go, look, all of our websites score in the top whatever percentage of Lighthouse. And that's something that people like. People like numbers. People like big green numbers. So
it should, yeah.
It is something that we're not going to sort of tire ourselves out trying to score that perfect 400 if we can't get it, but we will get as darn close as we can.
I like it. At least you're trying, and it's an industry standard that clients, if they don't understand it, they can. Yeah. And you can all work towards it. We don't have much kind of moderation across the web, apart from in these sort of spaces. And I feel like it's nice to have something that you can go, we're an accredited Google Lighthouse, smashing it, rather than, just making up a number. We could talk a lot about tech, and I'm mindful of time, but it's good to know that's where you're at. Could you tell us a bit about how your working arrangements are now and prior to lockdown, like personally, how you've made things work?
So I used to sort of work in the office. I live about an hour's cycle away from work. So I used to cycle to and from work most days, which was nice because it gave me sort of a bit of time to think and a bit of time to sort of clear my head. And that's often where ideas for side projects came up was from my bike ride. But now I sort of work 30 seconds away from my bedroom in, fortunately, an office. I've got an office in my house, which I'm very thankful for. But now I have an extra small 18-month-old work colleague who likes to sort of come in and press buttons and twiddle knobs and stuff. So I've actually I tend to start earlier and finish a little bit later at home so that I have a bit more time during the day to sort of take extended lunch breaks, or if my wife needs to go on a video call or something with her work, I can take care of the child and sort of make sure that he stays out of the way. So it's certainly different. I kind of miss the office banter. I miss being able to sort of just turn around and have a chat to my colleague about some sort of motor racing or PlayStation or whatever we're talking about at the time. But to give sort of every cloud has a silver lining and all that, I'm really grateful that I've got to spend all this time with my child, like watching him grow and stuff and develop over the last few months has been amazing, and I would have missed out on it. And I sort of I used to leave at 7 o'clock and not get home till 6:30, and now I get to see him during the day. I finish work at 5 and I can be downstairs at 5:05 and sort of get an extra couple of hours with him and stuff. So and obviously I get to see my wife a lot more, which is nice.
It is lovely. No, you're right. I mean, it's a good one, and I guess you've got the crucial age for your little one as well, because what was it, 4 months ago we went into lockdown, nearly 3 months, give or take.
3 months.
So you've got like 20% of your child's life in this time zone.
Exactly. Yeah, I know. And it's like he because he goes to various childminders and in-laws and stuff but pre-lockdown he was sort of going to them, and he's still a bit of a kind of late walker, as it were. So when we came into lockdown, I was like, oh, maybe we'll actually get to see him take his first steps, because that was the worry, was that he'd be somewhere else when he took his first steps. And yeah, a couple of weeks ago, he finally sort of walked between us, which was good to see. And I was glad I got to actually see it rather than, getting a report from the mother-in-law.
You got the video evidence, did you? Or
yeah, eventually he did it a few times, managed to get it on the camera.
That's cool.
He just looks drunk.
I remember when at his first steps, I had a Nokia, I think like an N95 to get the video footage. It's so dodgy and pixelated, but it's there. We put it on YouTube. It's not going anywhere. It's private, but
nice.
It's those special moments. But getting to experience this, I know it's a terrible situation we're in, but these little silver linings that you talk about, I think really do help. You also mentioned your wife taking video calls. Is she working at home as well?
She's a teacher.
Right.
So she, it's sort of only, fortunately, she doesn't have that many video calls. And sort of her working from home, when she is working from home, is she kind of just has to sit at the computer and check the odd thing, reply to kids on their whatever version of Facebook they've got running. Basically, it's kind of a school Facebook. So it's very fortunate that she's able to kind of, she works part-time. So when she is working from home, she's able to sort of sit at the computer and kind of keep an eye on the boy and stuff. So I'm able to sort of come upstairs to the office and sort of get down with some work. He sleeps in the room next door, so there's sort of a couple of hours a day where I say to people I can't take calls because got to take his sleep when it comes, kind of thing. So but yeah, it's been a great help that my wife doesn't have to sort of sit and focus at a computer, fortunately. But as of today, when we're recording, she's had to go back to school now. So
right.
We've sort of we made the tough decision to send the boy to the childminder so that I can crack on with some work, fortunately.
Oh, hats off to the wife, though, because my wife's a teacher as well. She's downstairs. She does a 3-week rota of being on site and then 2 weeks off. I think it gives you that window to understand as well. But it's weird because she's like senior leadership. She has to do all the initiative stuff as well. I don't know if your wife's in a similar boat, but she's forever on calls talking about stuff.
Right.
And we have to coincide our calendars going, right, who's got the main office space today? Because we need it for whatever we're doing. I literally jumped off a call before this. The friend, she's going to one now. So it's, difficult. But it seems like you got it working.
Yes. Yeah. We seem to have got into a nice routine. Well, we did get into a nice routine. Obviously this sort of starting now, the routine has changed all again, but it's just, I mean, everyone's saying it, but it's just so weird at the moment. And like, it's just every day something changes. Every day there's a different rule or announcement or a scary statistic you see on Twitter. And it's just, you've got to kind of, as much as I hate to say it, sometimes just bury your head in the sand and just pretend it's not happening for even a few hours just to try and, not get too depressed.
It's a fair point. I mean, how are you finding that? I'm the same. I'm trying to avoid the news and the social networks at the moment because I feel it brings me down. I don't know about you. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I'm fortunate in the fact that for some reason it doesn't seem to affect me that much. When we started lockdown, my wife kind of went into one of those news holes where every day she was sort of constantly refreshing and, it's sort of getting a little bit overbearing, as it were. But it's just, maybe I'm just too, I skim the news too much. Maybe I don't actually read the news, so it doesn't affect me too much. Who knows?
There might be a better way of doing it. That's how I do it. I get a Guardian push notification of the updates, and that's all I get to see. I don't want to go into the detail. No. Maybe it's a fine balance. You mentioned earlier as well, on the commute to the office, you used to have like an hour bike ride every day there and back. How are you fitting that in now? Because you must be clearly quite fit.
Well, it depends on the wind. And because it could be
which way's direction.
because I cycle along the seafront. Basically, it's a very flat ride, so it can't be. It's I get to a hill now and I can't handle it because I've been cycling on the flat for a couple of years. So depending on the wind, it will take me between half an hour and an hour because it's sort of someday you get horrible winds in the wrong direction and sometimes you get lovely winds in the right direction. But it's something that I miss, and I did notice the belly start when we started lockdown. So I now try and get up a couple of times a week and go for a little ride around here. I'm quite a keen cyclist anyway, so I've got quite a nice bike that I'm actually starting to get to ride again. And then of a weekend, maybe every other weekend, I'll go for a longer ride just to see the sights, see the countryside. And then me and my wife have started doing home workouts, which was something we didn't do before.
Ooh.
We started off with the Joe Wicks ones actually for a couple of months or so, and then started getting a bit bored of them because they're starting to get a bit repetitive, and he's a bit fast and loose with some of his exercises. So my wife's friend found this one from Adidas, I think, and it's pretty brutal, to say the least. I think we did the first one, and we both had sort of shaking and aching arms for the next couple of days. So it's try and keep fit where we can. I'm trying not to snack too much as well at home.
I'm struggling, I must be honest, but getting out on the weekly runs, twice weekly runs. Last week I tried to just push myself a bit further each time I did it as well, which is helping the matters. You made the point of the snacking as well. I know you're a beer fan. So how are you coping through lockdown? Because I think most of us are filling our recycling bins every week with glass and cans.
So I've to give a bit of context, I run a Instagram where I rate beers. I buy and rate beers, and I think I'm up to about 350 now, and I think that's increased somewhat over the lockdown because we weren't going to the supermarket as much. It's been not harder to get hold of beer, but certainly interesting. And I've discovered a few breweries that do delivery. And so I've just kind of been exploring different breweries that way. And in terms of my drinking, I've tried to not let it increase. I've always had this kind of rule that I don't drink during the week, except on a Thursday because it's Thirsty Thursday, so you kind of have to. Yeah. And I've stuck to that where I can. So good. Monday to Wednesday, which is only 3 days, isn't it? That's not anyway. But yeah, it's sort of
just under halfway.
I tend to have like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, maybe one a night, maybe two. It depends what I'm doing, but yeah, it's stayed consistent, I would say, is my drinking habits.
I wouldn't feel too bad. I think most people have got worse with this. I was speaking to a colleague earlier. She's like, I'm drinking every day. I've got to stop. I went, don't go cold turkey. At least reduce by every other night to start it off and see how you feel with that, because it will throw you over the edge. But I know it's hard. But I like you're going to your beer log as well. Where's that going and where did it come from?
It came from a couple of years ago. My wife made me a beer advent calendar one Christmas. So she bought 24. She found 24 different beers and put them in a nice little box. And then she said, "I'm buying you this on the proviso that you post a review for each one somewhere." So I was like, "Well, why not start an Instagram account for it?" And that's where it started basically, and then it's kind of just progressed. Basically any new beer that I come across, I post it, review it, and it's bordering into being a hobby now, I would say, and buying new beers has become slightly addictive.
I bet it is. Did you build a hack on top of it as well, like a dedicated website to?
Yeah, so when it got to about 150, 200 beers, it started to be difficult to work out which ones I'd had, because you can't search just an account on Instagram, or you certainly couldn't. So I built a website that pulls in the data from Instagram so that you can search it. And you can now filter it by brewery, because that was the other thing. Was I'd go into there's a local brewery called Harvey's, go into the Harvey's shop, and then I'd have to kind of like awkwardly search through my history to work out which Harvey's beers I'd had. So now you can go show me all the Harvey's beers and sort of see which one's on the list. And you can also sort by rating.
Oh, very nice.
So that I can, if I go, I really fancy having a few 9s again that I've given 9 out of 10, I can sort of just have a quick look and order a few.
That'd be cool. Have you open sourced this solution, or is it just your little baby at the moment?
It's just it's closed at the moment. It's a little bit touch and go what you can do with the Instagram API. Right. So I'm a little bit wary to to do that.
Fair enough. I mean, I know a lot of people that would love to do this. I'd love to set my own up as well, but yeah, you've got to be careful, right? Yeah, I'm a big beer fan, as you know. We talked about side projects already, but you've got others going on, right? You want to tell us a bit about Behind the Source?
Yeah, so this was one of the ideas that I had on one of my cycling commutes, and because I cycle to work, sort of can make a couple of notes at work, cycle home, don't really feel like doing anything at home. It often takes a few weeks for an idea to kind of fully grow, just purely based on time and stuff. So it started off as I was like, oh, wouldn't it be great to start a podcast where people have written in to tell like work horror stories, and then it's anonymized and you kind of read it out. And then I was like, well, actually, maybe not a podcast. Maybe it could be online interview kind of thing where people submit, horror stories or something like that, or just like confessions, like, oh, we still do this even though it's bad practice. And then it kind of progressed into, no, maybe there's too much kind of like negativity. There's too much kind of, oh, my tech stack's better than yours kind of thing going around on the internet. So I was like, maybe it should be a positive thing, and maybe I should just interview people who work in the web and just basically ask them about what they do, how they got there. I think I ask about what they like about the web industry, what they don't like about the web industry, what they like about their job, what they don't like about their job, and if they would do anything differently if they were to sort of start again. And it's actually been really interesting. Like a lot of there's sort of a running theme between what's bad about the industry. Pretty much everyone answered about the sort of diversity issue that there is right now, and kind of attitudes towards women in tech and other minorities. And it's really nice to sort of highlight. No, it's not nice to highlight that at all. It's
rewarding,
and to sort of just maybe bring that to light a bit more. And I mean, on the flip side, to read about how people got into their jobs and how people what they like about their jobs and stuff is also really nice, because I was very kind of classic male into web tech kind of route, whereas it's sort of really interesting and fascinating to hear about other people and how they got there.
I love that. I mean, part of the reason I do this is to get insights into how people work and what makes them kick, but not just work. It's like everything else that we like to do. So I like that you're focusing on the job part and the tech part of what they're doing, but also giving what do you like, what don't you like, because these are the things that people don't feel comfortable talking about, but have got a chance to do that. So what are you in now? You're about 4 episodes of this now, 3-4 episodes?
Yeah, we're halfway through.
Okay.
But due to the kind of what's going on in America right now this week, I decided to sort of to not publish this week's one, just because I think there's more important things right now to be reading on the internet. And there's the last thing anyone wants is sort of an interview with some dude in tech. So it's sort of I mean, I had set out this whole schedule and I've put it on pause because it's not the right time or place to be publishing an interview like that.
No, fair play to you. So what's the plan? Are you going to take a break for a couple of weeks or something, or?
Yeah, I probably a week or two. Yeah, it will seem a bit weird coming back, but at the end of the day, they're really good interviews that I want to get out there, but I don't want to just sort of make noise or distract from the sort of more important issues at the moment.
I like you've got the moral compass on that though, because a lot of people just blast on anyway, regardless, going, well, I have, to be honest, the reason I did this was to kind of give some focus and some positivity, but it has felt weird, especially doing it Mondays and Thursdays, because that's my schedule. Thursdays is generally getting ready for the bad weekend news, and you're like, oh God, it's going to get squashed and everything, but I've got to continue. But I think what I've realised in the last week or so, I think this will be a nice conclusion to this series, and then take a break like yourself, and then maybe come back in a few weeks' time, maybe a month or so, just when things have cleared up a bit, I think, because there's a lot of unknowns as we go into this current territory. How are you feeling about it, without going into too much political detail? What's your current stance?
I don't know. It's tough, because you hear one thing from the government and you read another thing on Twitter, and I just think, like, with regards to the sort of pandemic at the moment, it's just I think we're still minimizing where we're going, when we're going. Still only.
I mean, your wife's a teacher, right? So that you've got a personal focus on that. How are you happy for her to go into schools at the moment, or are you feeling a bit nervous? Because I am.
I mean, you've got to do what you've got to do, kind of thing. Her school has been amazing. I think her head teacher has been really, really good and handling this really well. So, you know, we've got quite a few friends that are teachers, and we hear from their schools that it's just not ideal. Whereas the school my wife works for is sort of being really careful, and they're really sort of looking out for their staff and the kids as well, for the kids that are going back. So I think it's sort of best of a bad situation kind of thing. You know, it's you just don't know, do you?
It's fair enough. Just one quick thing as well. I know last week your company just sent the staff home on a Friday afternoon. Yeah, it was just like a random gesture or something. What motivated that?
Well, it's just it's sort of, we're going through a bit of a tough time at the moment, and we just sort of wanted to show a little bit of appreciation to our staff for sticking by us, basically, and sort of handling the change so well. Like, we haven't sort of had any issues or sort of complaints or anything, and it was just sort of we just thought, let's just send everyone home. And it was slightly selfish as well. It just meant that we all got to have a half day as well. So and it was nice weather, and go and spend it with your family, or go and sit outside or something. So it was just we just felt like it needed doing.
I like it. It's a positive spin, though. I'm just trying to bring it back, so it's a bit of a negative at all there. One final thing before we wrap it up. What would be your number one tip for anyone who fancied getting into the tech scene? Because we've been doing it for a while now, but what would be your tip now, as it were?
I always listen to podcasts and hear this question and try and it's one of the questions that I kind of ask in Behind the Source, and it's just, I always think about what would I answer? And I don't know. I mean, I got into the tech scene by applying for like free work experience. So I did a couple of work experience at an agency, and then they hired me. But I appreciate not everyone could do that. It comes from quite a sort of privileged view to be able to work for 2 days a week without pay. So I think it's just keep chipping away, I think, and sort of I think writing blog posts is a huge benefit, mainly for you rather than anyone else, but you will always write it in a way that isn't out there at the moment. You might help someone, and if you help one person, that's great, and it really helps cement that knowledge that you're learning. So I think my one bit of advice would be write blog posts, put them somewhere on the internet, and just keep learning.
It's a good one, though. I mean, one of our fellow acquaintances, is it called Do Learning, right? Kevin, who was on previously on. I think you're right. If you can publicly learn and demonstrate what you're learning, it's a win-win for everyone, because someone else can learn from it. You're proving you're understanding these things, but you're finding your voice as well. And I think everyone should try to do this in some shape or form. It's good stuff. Speaking of blogs, then, how can people find your stuff and find you online? What's your handles on the socials?
I am Mike Streety on everything that's worth being on, I think.
Well said.
With mikestreety.co.uk, and then Mike Streety on Twitter, Instagram, anything. If that username's taken, I don't sign up for it, basically.
Very disciplined. I like it. Love it.
Got to stay on brand.
Absolutely. Mate, it's been wonderful to have a chat. Thanks for joining me on this. It's been great. And hopefully we'll get you back again in the future, talking a bit more about Behind the Source and either the side projects that come up. But take care of yourself and the family,
of course,
through all this craziness.
Thank you very much.
Thank you to everyone for listening, and especially Mike for joining me for this episode of the Make Life Work podcast. As Mike mentioned, you can find him as at MikeStreety with the Y on all the worthwhile socials, and you can and visit his website at mikestreety.co.uk. All the other links are in our show notes. Plus, you can always speak to both of us in our Slack community on the side.network. Takes you straight in there. You can find all the details about this podcast and other episodes on sidejobling.com/makelifework, or look for Make Life Work Pod on the socials, now including Instagram. We're available in all the popular podcast apps, Apple, Spotify, Google and Overcast. So make sure you subscribe, rate and review so we know what you think. Finally, if you would like a brand new Make Life Work vinyl sticker, do get in contact and I'll get some in the post out to you. That's all from me for this episode and this home edition series. I'm taking another break through the summer now, but we'll be back later in the year when I'll be inviting along another group of guests to talk about how they're balancing work, life and side projects on the Make Life Work podcast.